Hi, it's Matt. I'm back with another transparent watercolor. This is a 10 by 7 inch painting of a bunch of caricatured fish. After my last painting, the fox sparrow, which kind of had infinite detail, I thought I would switch to something that was less demanding of detail. This somehow reached the top of the stack of paintings to be done. So the first thing I did was, after transferring the main lines of the sketch, I just frisketed off the birds and started washing in a bunch of bold colors. After that, I splashed on more blue and hit it with the hairdryer, using the hairdryer to push it around the page. And did a bunch of layers like this to give a nice splashy, exciting background. Some of the colors I brought in knowing what other things would be on the page later. And so once the background was done, I peeled off the frisket, revealing the white of the paper, and then transferred the rest of my caricatured fish sketches. And at this point I started just putting in the lightest local colors of each of the fish. With these I tend to use very bold, saturated color just because it's outrageous, it's crazy, it's fun. And if there are areas of color that are the same, I just hit those all with the same brush while it's loaded up. So my main goal is just cover the page. Don't have any white of the page showing if I can avoid it. At least no large areas of white. What's nice about these paintings is that whatever you do is right. No one's going to tell you that that species of fish should have this color with it, or its nose is too big, or hey, if it comes out of your head, it's right, you know. And so what you want to do is have consistent lighting, render it in such a way that it looks realistic, even though they're totally not realistic, and that makes it appear fun, and it makes your brain register everything is correct, even though it's fanciful. I think from here out I was mostly using a number 2 round brush. A nice thing about the butcher's palette on the right, the butcher's tray as a palette, is that when you mix the colors on that, when you bring it to your page, it's exactly the same color. Sometimes with the plastic palettes and the deeper wells, as it gets deeper or it bubbles up on the beads up on the plastic, you don't necessarily get as accurate a read of the color that you're going to be putting on the page, and you have to test it on paper more often. With the butcher's tray, you know what color you're going to get when you put it on the paper. Picking colors for the fish is kind of hard. You kind of got to figure, well, what color suits the personality of the fish, whatever that is. And you've got to figure out, well, should he have stripes? Should he have dots? Should he just be flat colored? And the other thing I consider is that, okay, well, this guy's bright pink on this side. Maybe I want to bring in some pink to the, some other areas of the painting so it isn't just all alone. So maybe I'll put some little pink frills on the feathers on one side, the fins, on the other side. And, it's an opportunity to play as opposed to just strictly illustrate something that you're having as photo reference. And with these, you're kind of just inventing as you go, which is a very different sort of painting, and it's fun. One of the things that I find interesting is that there's a tendency when you're starting painting to want to use blacks because it has that great contrast. but whenever you use black, it kind of just sucks the life out of things. So I avoid using blacks in these paintings, other than I will mix alizarin crimson and phthalo green, which approaches black. And it's super dark, and it has some of the... It has the feel of black, but it's always tilted either in greenish or reddish, and so it always has a little bit more personality than if you're using just a flat black. So for like the inside of the mouth, I'm using mostly super dark reds and purples and some of that blackish mix of alizarin and phthalo green. And I did that later on the large guy on the right, to get the blackish kind of look to his fins. But again, it was more purples and dark reds and things like that than it was actually... There's no tube black on these. That tends to suck the life out of things. And so using the mixed blacks, blackish colors, mixed darks, always ends up making it a little more vibrant to my eye. Your results may vary. So once the fish were basically done, I started painting in all these bubbles. And the bubbles take a long time, but the fun thing is bringing all the reflected colors of the fish that are near them into them. So I love the way they look in the end. They're kind of, it's laborious to go through and paint each one of those bubbles and have it rendered with little highlights and reflected lights of the others, but in the end it looks really cool, so it's always worth the time put into those. I think they'd be a little dull if I didn't do some fun bubbles. And to frisket those, I literally just stick some of the liquid frisket on my finger and then flick it over the painting when I'm applying the frisket, and wherever it goes, I know basically where it's going to flop, but there is some haphazardness to where it goes, and you just kind of work with it. So most of this was with the number 2 round. Later, as I got into the most tiny details, I'd switch to a 10-aught just to crisp up edges and add little sparkles of, deep dark colors to crisp up edges and things like that. But it's fun to do paintings like this where you can have outrageous saturated color, and you don't get much opportunity for that with normal painting. So these are kind of fun to do. Well, there you go. That's the 7 by 10 inch transparent watercolor of a bunch of caricatured fish. Thanks for watching. If you get a chance, have a peek at the blog or leave a comment.